Get ready for Algo Hour!
Welcome to Overtime. I'm excited. It's Thursday. It is 10 a.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time. And I'm here with Ted and his cat, Chicken, or Waffles, one of them, Joe Palmy and Kevin Bernoge. How do you say that?
Well, it's close. Yeah.
Okay.
Vernoy. Yeah, it's like a long
Bernoy.
O. Vernoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you on. I know we had planned to have Mike on as well, but you got big shoes to fill. First time on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Indeed. Yeah, and unfortunately, Mike had some last minute how do you say that, activities that he had to attend to in the light of many of the things that we've been doing with Algo and with Messina mostly, but also some other stuff in Algo Foundry. So yeah, unfortunately, he had some conflicting activities, but who knows? There might be another time. But yeah, I'm here. So thank you for
I'm
having me.
happy you are. Thanks so much. I know I was in a space with you a couple weeks ago that was really great. You host the Algo Foundry. I think they're bi-weekly spaces, and you try to have a new topic.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us might be familiar with you, Kevin, and seen you around. But I thought it would be a really cool way to start for you to just kind of entertain me a little bit and give me the rundown on exactly what Algo Foundry is as a whole, because it's been around a while.
Sure.
But I compare it to Headline a little because you guys do so much. It can kind of be a little intimidating to try to dive into it. So tell me what you're all about at Algo Foundry.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can certainly see that comparison. Algo Foundry is essentially a collaboration between Undercurrent Capital and Technologies, which is the overarching firm, and the Algorand Foundation. Right. So, and at Algo Foundry, we focus mostly on building infrastructure and DeFi applications. And we're also working on onboarding of new developers, educating mostly in the university space in and around Singapore, but we also do some things with the university in Cape Town in South Africa. They have a program there called FinHub, together with Algorand Foundation. So it's a little bit of everything that we do. So within Algo Foundry, we have some in-house products, like for example the Algo Safe, which started its life cycle as Foundry Safe, but then that didn't really catch on, and we were launching some updates and new features, and we decided to kind of like relaunch it as the Algo Safe, which is essentially a multi-sig kind of like security application. It's not a wallet. You need a wallet to tune into it, but yeah, you can use it to kind of like manage your team assets or your project assets or things like that, or as an extra security feature, even if you're a solo user. So like we have some in-house products like that. Another in-house product is like the developer courses. So we have a series of developer courses for new interested developers to learn how to work with Algorand. Now, obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we've learned that in the not too distant future, all of that is going to change significantly, which is great, of course, for the scaling of Algorand and bringing new developers on board. So that's kind of like the in-house part. And then what we also do is take on promising projects and try to bring them from kind of like the idea phase all the way to like taking them to market, and then supporting them through that entire process with marketing, with communications, with business strategy. Like, for example, we do Algo Rai. And for a little bit also with Messina. Messina is kind of like in the middle of the two things, right? It's not exactly in-house, but it's not exactly an incubator project either. It's kind of like a bit of both. So yeah, Algo, and then we have Messina, and that's basically what is currently deployed on Algorand. The overarching firm Undercurrent is doing a lot more things. They are also basically chain agnostic, and they also have a Web2 application development branch. But that's basically, like you said, doing a lot of different things. And I think that with Messina, and especially since I think where we started to get a little bit of traction in the community was when we created the Pepe Bridge, and that was kind of like where Messina started to get a bit more visibility, and then Algo Foundry being kind of like the ship that is kind of like steering the direction behind Messina. And since then we've basically been growing a little bit, mostly on the back of Messina. And that's also where a lot of focus is going to at the moment. Although we have a pretty interesting roadmap for Algo as well. So doing a lot of different things, so
There was
it's
an
been good.
update that went live recently, right? I think when you and I were messaging back and forth, there was something you guys were updating end of September.
For Algo or Messina?
I want to say it was Messina, but I don't know.
The big launch was of course the M-Algo liquid staking solution, right? So that launched on the 12th of September. So basically on the back of token 2049, right? So Algo Foundry is based in Singapore. I believe even actually sharing office space with Algorand Foundation in Singapore. So we work very closely with them. I don't personally work too closely with most people at the foundation, but I know that Mike does, and Jonty's our CEO, Jonathan, he does, and some of our marketing and product manager people, they work very closely with the Algorand Foundation. They did some shared events also in Token 2049. So yeah, like you said, Algo Foundry has been around for quite some time. They were around when I discovered Algorand first, and even before I started working for them. But yeah, a little bit in the background, and nobody really understanding what they're doing. So it's good for me also as a community facing person, and working a lot with marketing and communications and partnerships, that especially with Messina, we have like a real consumer product out on the market now that we can really build a story around and really use to promote all of our activities. So yeah, that's basically what we are, what we do, and where our focus is.
I dig it. I can tell you, I haven't bridged anything myself, but I own some bridged Pepe. So, end consumer here is really it's really cool.
Yeah, ultimately that's what you want to be as a bridge, right? Like you want to you're essentially an enabler for and then the community needs to start and do things with those tokens that you bridge across. And as a bridge, it's actually very interesting to work in like with partnerships and marketing, because like I said, as a bridge, you're more like the enabler. You're not the end product yourself. So how do you create a strategy around that? How do you stimulate people to start using your bridge, right? Because just saying like, "Hey, look at my cool bridge," like that. It's it needs to have a function. It needs to have a purpose to bring something across. So we're always looking for those partnerships with the DeFi protocols or GameFi projects, or to try and advertise them, and then position the bridge as kind of a gateway to get into the landscape, and then try and stimulate users to use the bridge that way. So and then of course we have M-Algo now, right? So it's a new liquid staking solution or product, right? So similar to Fox Finance's G-Algo, with the difference that M-Algo and M-Algo kind of like the governance rewards are tied to the token and not to the wallet, right? So it's basically an interest bearing token. and rather than receiving the rewards on your wallet where you need to claim them, the value of Algo like constantly increases in comparison to the underlying Algo asset, right? So with every governance rewards distribution, the value of Algo goes up. So then if you would go and redeem it on Messina, you get more Algo back than you initially put in, right? So and you can do all sorts of interesting things with that. What it does is it gives you a way to basically very passively own Algo if you would want to, but still benefit from governance rewards. Right. So
and those pools are open, right? So like I know
yeah.
people talk about if you're in Algo, a good play if there's not a lot to do with your Algo might be like an Algo to Algo pool. So people do like Algo and Algo pools, for example, and that might be a strategy to kind of play it safe, if you will, and not degen into meme coins.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so you basically our logic is right that there's about like between, depending on when you look, between 2.3 to 2.5 billion Algo generally committed to governance, right? And about, I think this period it was about 460 million of that was on Volksfinance liquid staking, so in Algo. So that basically leaves, close to 2 billion Algo that is committed to governance, but not actually liquid, right? So it's not on Volksfinance, and Volksfinance was actually the only until we launched Algo was the only. I mean, I think there was one more with, what were they called? Not. I forgot. There was one more option also. Of course, AlgoFi is gone, so like they left already like some time ago. They also had a liquid staking solution. There was another one with liquid staking solution, but I think they also gone now. So Volkswagen was the only one left. Yeah, Guard. Yeah, that's the one. And so we were thinking about, okay, so what kind of product can we create so that we can capture some of that other market share that is currently not deployed in liquid staking, right? So it's fixed, it's staked somewhere, but it's not used or deployed in DeFi otherwise. You're talking about like up and around 2 billion Algo, right? So that's really like what we are aiming for, right? So that suggests that might be more passive users. If you're basically a passive holder of Algo and you're looking to long-term hold Algo, then you might as well hold Algo because it will just accrue value over time. And if you ever need to liquidate, you can do that at any point of time. So there's no kind of like fixed period where you can uncommit or unstake. You can do that at any time and get your Algo back if necessary. So it adds a little bit of flexibility. We're still in the process of creating more DeFi opportunities, right? So we basically wanted to make sure that we get the product out in the market before governance period 9. So basically right now, and then start building the framework around that. That's basically what we're doing now. Like this week, we actually partnered or collaborated with Exa Market, where they now accept, or if you list an NFT, you can select Algo as a payment currency for your NFTs. So we did a promo together with the Bambino NFT collection, and they have a V2 coming up next month, I think, in October. So we had some NFT passes that can be used to mint the new version 2 NFTs. So we had them up for sale for Algo on Exa Market, and they basically sold out in a minute or something.
Wow.
And so that was pretty cool. We're looking to build a lot more kind of partnerships and to create more DeFi opportunities for people to design their own kind of like governance strategies and try to generate the most yield, that they can. But like if that's something that is like, I think Algo is a product as well that can also appeal to people who think this is all too complicated, right? Who want to just hold algo and but also earn something passively on the side. Then yeah, Algo is a very good alternative because you just hold it in your wallet. You don't need to do anything. Voting is basically taken care for you by the protocol. So
I
at the
was going to
moment,
ask, just for the sake of clarifying it, like I'm 5, which I'm not 5, but back in the day, Coinbase used to let you passively get governance rewards just by holding Algo in your Coinbase wallet. And it wasn't as high of a reward as you would have gotten by holding it in your, at that point, it was an Algorand wallet, before Para rebranded. But is it kind of the same thing then? So essentially what you're saying is Messina is participating in governance with this pool, and then they're like divvying it back out, similar
kind
to
of.
that? Or how is it tied
Yeah.
to the token, I guess?
Kind of, right? So basically, the algo that's staked is then put into governance by the Messina protocol, right? There's some complex kind of like algorithm system behind
Right.
that, right? So to make it possible for users to uncommit or unstake at any time, because when you unstake, you're basically forfeiting your governance rewards. Right. So, and then that account or address from which you are unstaking is then excluded from governance rewards. So, what we had to do to make it possible for individuals to withdraw their algo, or basically, so redeem their algo, turn in their M algo, get their algo back.
Oh, he got really excited. He must have slammed the like button a little too hard. I'm sure we'll get him back. I know that that's what he was doing. I mean, it's pretty much a shoe-in. So, Joe, do you know, and I like Kevin. Oh, there he is. Do you know, Joe, about how they, what the Algo Foundation, like what that partnership or whatever it is entails, from your position, not involved, but kind of like still being there? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So I haven't worked super closely with them. I do know some of my colleagues do, like Kevin was alluding to, and I think like you said, like they share an office space, and so even like my relationship with them, I met Mike Knott. He was actually one of the first people that
Are you guys able to hear me?
I've met. Yeah. You cut out for a bit for us. Can you hear us?
Kevin, can you hear us? Well, you're back now. You disappeared for a second, so I asked Joe a question while we waited for you to jump back on.
I can hear you, but I couldn't hear Joe.
Oh. You're muted now.
I think.
Let me get into the control room and see what's happening here.
Right.
I thought you were just hitting the like button too hard. That you were slamming
I suddenly
the
lost
key,
the.
but let's see here.
I
don't have
the studio.
You in the chat. Maybe leave and come back again, because you're not showing in the control room for me.
In any event, yeah, I can imagine, Joe, how you guys just cohabitating in the same space makes it a lot easier for natural stuff to just, things to happen, I should say.
Right. And so Kevin, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think I'm
perfect. Back. Okay, great. Yeah, so like Mike was one of the first people I've met actually in the ecosystem when I first joined the foundation, and there's always been kind of like a back and forth, even when they're developing a new product or like working on the educational material, like we'll make ourselves available, much like we do for pretty much any company in the ecosystem, to answer technical questions and stuff. And then for the education side, we also back before we had a big DevRel team ourselves, we relied on partners like Algo Foundry to get like that educational content out there. And even now, like we have our own internal boot camps, but Algo Foundry is more of like a actual course with like proper like a course flow and like an interface and like questions and that sort of stuff. So as a foundation, it's always really nice to have like strong partners that you can rely on for this sort of stuff. And that's kind of how we view, Algo Foundry, is that they're a partner that we can use to kind of further, our messaging, and then we can, help them grow and achieve, their mission.
I dig it. I was just asking Kevin while you blurped in and out there on us. And it was, you can confirm it was because you were smashing the like button too hard, right?
Of course.
Is that what happened?
That was it.
Okay.
The like and subscribe button. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was just asking Joe if he could kind of give us from his perspective, obviously knowing that he doesn't do a lot with you guys in his specific role, but a little bit about more how that Algo Foundation and Algo Foundry work together, because I do know that there's a lot of interlink there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I think Joe, I don't know, like if you may have had contact with like, some of our product team, like people like Doreen or some of the other some of the tech guys, right? So, but there's definitely a very close connection there. Both based in Singapore, and so yeah, I know there's a lot of collaboration happening there. So
yeah, especially like on the tech front. I mean, Algorand as a protocol, it develops and moves pretty quick, and Algo Foundry is building kind of this like bleeding edge tech that they're offering solutions that either other people don't have or in a way that wasn't previously available. So it's really important that when we're working with these like big partners, that we're in sync in terms of the tech and what's going to be available, not just now, but 6 months down the road, and how that might influence like product design decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, right? Like it gives you. I think there's a lot of. I mean, I'm not necessarily involved in those conversations much myself, right? Because I'm more on the ecosystem and the community and partnership side. And when I say partnership, I mean more like ecosystem and community partnerships. So other projects in the space that we can work with, or even, for Messina, I also am always working with, because we're a bridge essentially, right? So I'm looking into other ecosystems as well. So I'm not necessarily involved in the more kind of like business or tech partnerships or collaborations that are being discussed. But yeah, I know that there's a good relationship there. Yeah.
Yeah, you think you'd almost have to with the nature of like the bridging. And I think it's cool. Like I said, I have benefited from being able to own Wrapped Pepe from the bridge, but from the technical standpoint, right? I'm stand at the other side and wait for the stuff coming over type user. So I did want to give Ted a few minutes to chime in and kind of give us his angle on how we're unwrapping this Algo Foundry and Messina One Bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that really stood out to me, especially kind of going through and doing my own research before this interview and kind of video, was really kind of, and Joe alluded to this earlier, was just how much educational content you have available. And I, as someone that is like IRL, not necessarily very coding proficient, found that very helpful, specifically just the structure of like how, okay, like you should be knowledgeable in JavaScript or Node.js or React, and being able to go through and kind of quantify and put what skills you need to have and put it all into one nice little package, I think is really beneficial for trying to onboard not just the users, but really developers who are critical for onboarding more users, which I know a lot of people that I talk to in my circles kind of is like, not to quote Steve Ballmer, but developers. So I think that was something that was just kind of my first initial observation. But my question then is, what is something that has been the most impactful for you when it comes to education, in terms of like either a company or a group or an experience that you've seen that's really made you feel proud as a person or as a company for the services that you're providing?
Yeah. I mean, like we So there have been a couple like boot camps and workshops throughout the years in the last 1.5, 2 years. I've not been part of everything because I've basically been with Algo Foundry now for about a year. So I started in September a year ago. When I first joined, we did a collaboration with the University of Marrakesh in Morocco, which was very successful. And we've done a workshop with a number of NFT partners towards the end of last year. I think we started in October and we finished in December, where we basically invited community members from a number of NFT communities who were interested in learning about Algorand programming and building on Algorand to run a boot camp. So I think we did that with like Algoana and Mingo and Tiger Chi. I think it was those three. And that was fun. So we did a boot camp there. And there is a lot of work that's being done in Singapore itself with the technical university, and like I mentioned before, the what we do with the FinHub in South Africa in Cape Town. I talk a lot with the kind of the director there. His name's Anda. And for me personally, I think like education and creating opportunity for students and it's very important. It's something that I've always tried to make time for even before I got working professionally in Web3. Because I was basically an IT manager, account manager in an IT firm. And then you talk a lot about metrics and milestones and targets and things like that. And that was never really the most important for me. What was really important for me was really the education and the growth of the people that you're responsible for. And I really try to, and I'm really happy that Algo Foundry is trying to kind of like do that same sort of thing and implement that same sort of mentality towards education as well. So I think in general, it's just, I'm very glad that we put so much emphasis on the educational domain. And
so you
while
think,
at the same time, yeah.
I was just going to say, to summarize that kind of thought or the answer to Ted's question, you think when the educational initiatives kind of end up being collaborations is when it really kind of hits its stride? Is that the takeaway?
Yeah, sort of. Like if you want to do something with a bit of purpose, right? So if you can see that even if it's only one person who actually ends up building something useful, or ends up with a career in development, then I think that's a success already, right? Like I think if you can even positively influence the career of one person, it already makes it worth it for me, I think. Yeah.
I love that answer too. I think one of the things that really stood out to me is just how much of a global impact that you're having too. You're not just focusing on one region. Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the things that you like about that, or also some of the challenges? Right, I can imagine. I mean, just like with this and scheduling, right? I'm sure you can have a variety of logistics that you have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, like I love working in the international space, right? Like, and Web3 is all about that, of course, right? Like, it's all about the the borderless economy and the digital space, and being connected 24/7, and that creates so many opportunities, right? And some of the people that I'm closest to now, in my life. They are on opposite sides of the world, but that's also again kind of like the downside of it, right? Like because you don't often have the opportunity to actually meet each other, right? And that kind of that's kind of this bittersweet kind of thing, right? So where even our Algo Foundry team, I think we have some dev work that is done in some other parts of the world, maybe like Philippines, India, like I don't know exactly where, but the core team's in Singapore. and I'm the only person of the core team who's not in Singapore, right? So I'm also not exactly close, right?
Yeah.
So because I'm in Europe, and so yeah, that does bring its challenges in the work around partnerships. Of course, finding the right time slot. Like even today, I was talking with some of the guys from the next block about trying to set up a meeting with them. And then you need to try and find a time slot that kind of works for everybody. And yeah, that's of course a challenge that this 24/7 borderless digital environment kind of that's something we will never really be able to solve, right? Because yeah, that's the only thing that technology can't really solve is time, right? So
Yeah.
that's always a challenge. Yeah, and like I said, like the interpersonal connections, it's great that you can have so many great relationships across the entire planet, but yeah, ultimately actually physically meeting up with people is difficult. Yeah, but I think the positives outweigh those negatives by quite a distance. So yeah.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. Is there a specific emphasis that you're looking to kind of put on in the next 6 months or a year from now? Like, if we were to kind of revisit this conversation a year from now, is there any specific focus that you'd be that you want to hint at, I should say, or
Yeah.
kind of mention?
Well, I think like with Messina, it's really we I think the tagline is that we want to onboard the next 1 billion users to Web3, right? And because the bridge is really only, I wouldn't even say phase 1, it's phase 0, right? Like, so the bridge is kind of like the underlying architecture that we need to build everything else on top. Because really the goal for Messina is to be this chain agnostic, like all-purpose interoperability suite, right? And that you will be able to, as a user, will be able to kind of like do all sorts of, seamless DeFi actions and activities that might involve like cross-chain swaps and transactions and everything. But as a user, it should all just be a 1 or 2 click experience. And that's what we want to build, right? So that's the ambition, and that's also what our roadmap is kind of hinting towards. Of course, that will take time. Liquid staking, Algo is basically another step. But we also want to build liquid staking for other chains and other solutions, right? So that Messina can really become like this hub, this DeFi hub, chain agnostic DeFi hub, where whether you are well educated in DeFi and Web3 or not, you should be able to use it. And then that's really, I think, like where most of the focus is right now. And at the same time, I can't forget Algo either, because they have a very interesting roadmap as well, with some new products that we have in the pipeline, for which we are currently discussing. What we should name these products. It's always a big decision and discussion. But yeah, Algo is I don't know if you've been on the site or if you've looked at it, but it can be a little bit more. It's a bit more finance heavy, right? So the products that are being created, they are, I wouldn't say more complicated, because once you understand them, they are not necessarily so complicated, but they're less well-known financial instruments, right? Like, so either because they carry more risk, or because they are just a little bit more complicated to use. So it's for the slightly more advanced DeFi user. Right. So,
Yeah.
but even there, the goal really is to design it in a way that people understand what it is, what it does, and that it is easy to use. Because that's the direction of Web3 in general needs to go to. Right, is that seamless user experience, and that everything can be done with just 1 or 2 clicks. And that's also why some of the announcements that were made by John Woods on Token 2049 are so important, and create such a positive buzz around Algorand, because those are exactly the announcements and the changes that are moving in that kind of direction.
Well, I mean, absolutely, and to be able to automate, something as complex as options writing, even in a traditional finance environment, is something is not really foreseen, much less in a Web3 decentralized financial environment. So I think that's really admirable, and the fact that you can distill such complex financial instruments down to something that's a lot more palatable to the average user is a challenge. That's a challenge for any business. So. For that, I applaud and thank you for that. I think Algorand is something that a lot of people in the ecosystem are not necessarily familiar with, which, definitely deserves credit where credit is due.
I feel like both of those are gargantuan things in and of themselves. So I'm sure we'll continue to hear more about it. Like you said, you can build a bridge, but it's really when the highway traffic starts flowing that, you really get as the end user get the best bits coming off the bridge. And like you said, the accessibility for financial tools, I'm sure we're going to hear more about it, but I'm happy that you've already kind of built up the educational piece of it, right? So that you have a trusted place you can go for information. Okay, and now we're making these advanced tools available, but we already have that kind of we already know where we can go for the information. We kind of have a rapport about learning about certain things like these types of tools through Algo Foundry. So I think I'm excited to see what continues to happen with it. I'm excited to see how you guys kind of leverage your friendship with the foundation, I guess is a good way to say it, partnership, friendship. I think it's good all around. I think it's big and it can be overwhelming. Like I said, it kind of a little bit like I get headline vibes on the just sheer scope of impact. But I will say, Kevin, you're very approachable. I have bumped into you several times over the last year and change. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Kevin. But also, Kevin, if people are interested in learning more about it, where are the best places to go to find out?
I mean, like you can always, you can start with just the standard social media places, right? Like Algo Foundry on Twitter, Messina1 on Twitter, Algorand Finance on Twitter, and then the websites itself. They all have documents. Basically, that you can find on the main page. So you just go and find the menu, and there's documents there. That will lead you to like the Git book, and most of it is all explained there. And if there's any other questions that you can't find the answers yourself, then there's always the Telegram and Discord. Like each of those products, they have their own Discord and their own Telegram. So that's Algo Foundry, that's Messina, that's Algorand. Basically, I'm in all of those, so I monitor most of those. Each product has kind of their own, tech people dedicated. So they might see some different names and faces there as well, but but I'm there and some of the product managers are there. So the usual places. And you can even just approach me personally on Twitter, or find me on LinkedIn, or all those sorts of things. So that's
I can confirm, Kevin, you are everywhere. Telegram, Twitter, Insta.
I just use whatever the people are using that I am trying to reach, right? So, and that means you end up with everything. So I'm on. You can find me on WhatsApp, on Slack, on
I dig it. Well, I appreciate the effort to connect communities. Like I said, you've been in my DMs on and off, and it's always good to see you. I would point to a couple interviews that you guys have done with, for example, the Next Block. Mike, I think, has been on there twice, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. So if you want to hear more from the CEO, you can check out those interviews that they did, and they're fairly recent. I think the one was just last week, maybe. So there is other places to get the information and kind of feel like you're getting to know some of these founders and C-suites. So I think it's great. I think it's cool you guys are tapping community content creators. I love the collaboration that the guys at the Next Block do between the three of them. But we are a little bit different here. And so I thought we would close with a game, Kevin. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, sounds good. Always good for games.
All right. So I think, and I'll ask Joe and Ted what they think, but what do you think about having Kevin, do the Algo Ecosystem Challenge? We got to give him a taste of the regular Algo Hour shenanigans.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it'll be a great test to see how many of the guesses or answers are something affiliated with you, or if it's just something within the wider world of Algorand that
he could go nuts with just Foundry stuff, I'm sure, right? Like the list would be very long. But Kevin, the name of the game is the Algo Ecosystem Challenge. We will give you 30 seconds to name as many ecosystem projects as you can. So we're only talking one side of the bridge here, right? All Algorand. But everything is fair game. DeFi, NFTs, builders, you name it, right? So we'll give you 30 seconds to name as many Algo ecosystem participants as you can. I will cue you up with the timer so that you're ready.
And projects that still exist or that are sunsetting or have disappeared.
We have a discretionary. You can as long as they're not. As long as it's not too dark outside.
I mean, okay, so the only one I won't accept is Climate Ride. Fair? Okay.
Climate Ride. How about Smilecoin?
Smilecoin, see, that's pushing it. So
all right.
Quite often we do get people that say Yieldly, and I count it, but it's really, I think a little bit differently about those people. So just choose wisely. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's see.
Sure. Kevin's going to think twice before he asks me again to come on the show. All right, on your mark, get set, go.
All right. So I'll start with DeFi then. So Messina, Fox Finance, Algo Mint. Let's put Guard there. Let me see. We'll go to a bit of GameFi. It's Aegir Tactics. There is Fractal Monsters. There's Zone. There is what's the guys with the spaceships? I forgot their name.
Time's up. Good job. That was a fast 30 seconds.
It's fast. 30.
It's fast.
Oh, that was very fast. The time. All right.
Teddy, how do you do?
I got 11, but I counted Algo Fi.
I count Algo Fi.
I didn't even say my own companies.
No, you didn't. Which we appreciate. You know, I think that would have been such an easy route to go down. The fact that you took the hard way.
If you get stuck, though, there's always the sponsor bar, which is like a kind of a free gimme because it's their names aren't listed.
I wasn't looking at that. Yeah.
You have to know who they are. Like we don't write their names on it, so I think that's a good one too.
There's Naughty Boy also there, no?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Naughty Boy. It's cool. You know, we have a lot of support. It's great. It's just we make it affordable. It's a $50 a month commitment to sponsor what we produce. It's fun. It's a group lift, and I'm all about that.
What's like the one with the helmet, the white helmet in black?
Oh, that's a good question because that person was in our live chat. And they said anyone in their Discord can drop a comment and they'll drop you some tokens from their project, which is cool, the EXP. But that is the Fallen Order. So kind of moving left to right, which I'm going to try really hard to be an effective. Pointing is very hard on these things. But we've got NF Domains, Rain Gallery, NifGen, AlgoBots, Chris Wenner, gov.voy.algo, Naughty Boy, Fallen Order, Taco Coin, and Womp Crew. It's just smashing the two of those together at the end there.
I just think it's awesome that Taco Coin is actually a taco shop, like a taco card. Like I think they told me in Buffalo. Misremembered it.
No, Iowa or Utah or somewhere way up there. Oh, he's gonna be mad at me. I know, but it's
I thought they said
Nebraska, not
Buffalo to me.
Nebraska. No,
I
Iowa.
remember because I
Des
was
Moines,
talking to
Iowa,
them.
I think.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
Dora's Tacos.
Doris Tacos, yeah.
Yes. Taco's a nice guy. Obviously, I'm grateful that they support the show, but also we're going to be giving away some taco coin here. So last week on Tuesday, when we did our regular live show, we airdropped 6,900 coop out to everybody who left us their NFTs in the comments. So I think next week we're going to do taco coin or something fun like that, because there's a bunch of cool tools that make it really easy now. So I think I did the show's airdrop in less than 5 minutes after the show on Tuesday. It was really slick. Thanks to the NFT Vaults and Evil Tools Mass Send, which is, like open source tooling. So
yeah, the vaults are a great addition to the ecosystem.
They're so good. And, I hope that you hang around, you check out we see in the chat maybe on an upcoming Algo hour. And then, we'll get Mike back here. We'll get him to schedule us on his Team A calendar next time.
Yeah, I'll drag him in.
Here.
I'll drag him in. He needs to get better at looking at his calendar.
I even had Ted do the calendar. I don't know how to send a calendar invite. I need to get better at that. So Ted did it for us. Thank you, Ted.
That's the main reason why I am still a part of the show, is my ability to do the calendars behind the scenes. But other than that,
that's a very important task.
Logistics,
all about logistics.
We'll have to update my title in the credits as the executive assistant.
Oh, I like that. I want an assistant. Would that be my assistant?
I don't know who else's it would be.
Sign me up, man. Well, I appreciate it. Kevin, any final thoughts for anyone? And then we'll let Joe and Ted say their goodbyes too.
Thank you for having me, and for everybody watching, and check out what Algo Foundry is doing. Definitely have a look at Messina. Check out Algo. If there's ever anything that you need some help with in the ecosystem, if anybody has any ideas on our Foundry talks, want to join one of our talks there, then also just message me. We'll always have space and time for everybody. So just keep doing.
You had a great one the other day. I mean, I was a little partial because I was on it, but about content creating, and I thought it was a really cool. You brought in someone from another ecosystem, so it was fun to kind of combine and have like a little group think, a group chat about it.
Yeah, I think like that's a healthy thing to do. I think, right? Like we have. I think it's fun as well because every ecosystem has its own little culture. Right. And I think it's really fun to try and kind of like mix those cultures and see what it's like on the other side. Creates very interesting conversation.
I dig it. I agree. I'm all about the interesting combos. Like that's what keeps me here, I think, is the interesting people and their interesting thoughts. And how generally like a lot of people's what ifs are really helpful things that are like empowering tools that you can see, huge potential use cases for. So I'm excited. I think bridges are necessary for this cross-chain future that we're all like thinking is, that we all want to make it as seamless for users as we can. So I appreciate the good work you guys are putting in. I think a bridge and some of the other tooling that you've done for people who want to develop, I think it's a little bit like rewiring your house or, doing your roof. It's not something anybody sees, but it's a ton of work and it's a huge investment. And if you don't get that right, the fancy light fixtures aren't going to, you know what I mean? So I just mad respect for that kind of foundational, the heavy lift work that isn't always pretty. It's not always seen.
Appreciate it.
It's often very expensive, but we need nonetheless. So I appreciate you big time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you so much again for coming on here. It's been been awesome to kind of hear some of your answers and to talk about everything from the education, and I touched a little bit on Algo Safe and Algo AI, which is way more interesting. Not to throw hate on your multi-sig technology, but there's a lot
we know
more
what
going
Ted's
on.
into.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on with the financial tools and whatnot, and just everything else, the education and the outreach, and you guys are fantastic. I can't believe I didn't realize how close the proximity was between your guys' office, between Joe's foundation and you. But that's all I've got. Thank you so much. That's my send off. Joe, anything else?
Yeah, no, it's just always great to learn, about projects in the ecosystem, especially as my role. Even though I work for the foundation, I don't always get time to play in the ecosystem and learn about all these new products because, I'm writing code and doing education, stuff like that. So always good to hear updates, especially from Algo Foundry, because like I said, Mike was one of the first people I've met in the ecosystem. And of course, Algo Foundry was one of the first companies I got to work with. So yeah, always great
Cool.
hearing updates and seeing what you guys are building.
I dig it.
Great.
Joe, I know you're really busy, but I like to think that we're like your culture. Joe's here for the culture. I appreciate you big time. Kevin, thank you so much for coming in. And Ted, as always, much love. We'll see everybody on Tuesday for another regular episode of Algo Hour. And then hopefully we'll be popping in with some supplemental pieces, maybe some extended sports stuff, maybe some overtime where we get to know other projects a little bit better and take the time out to ask questions and check our understanding. But it's been a good one, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.